Welcome to episode 225 of Missing Pieces. This is my weekly audio journal podcast where I talk about what I'm up to and what I'm into. As of the recording of this Friday, October 11th, 2024 at 1:21 p.m. And this just so happens to be only the second thing that I'm accomplishing today. The first thing being something that took the majority of my day yesterday and all of my day today, but it also happens to be my win of the week. And I'll be sharing that with you here. But before I do that, I've got to give you a little bit of a backstory on this episode, a little bit of honesty here. This one is a little bit of a struggle for me. As you may know, I've been daily vlogging my life lately. I decided to start this little challenge that I've done before, 100 days until I turn 40 in this case. And I initially started uploading those as vertical videos on TikTok, thinking that I would try something new on a new platform. But then I very quickly realized that I'm just not a short form type of guy. I'm very much long form, and my content really doesn't work over there. So I moved them over to YouTube, and ever since I've been documenting my days every day, and I've been putting everything into those videos quite literally. So when it comes time at the end of the week to record a Missing Pieces episode, it's hard for me to take all of that energy that I put into those videos, and then after not only living it, but editing it, uploading it, and now to rehash those things or to come up with something new or exclusive to share here, it's kind of a challenge to do. In fact, I'm even struggling on Patreon because I want to offer exclusive content. That's the reason people come there. And I'm putting so much of myself out there that I'm like, what can I share here? So this week I decided to come up with the idea that weekends I would make one singular video documenting both days. So I'm still technically, vlogging every day, but I just make the weekends exclusive to Patreon, which I think is kind of a cool thing and a bit of an incentive over there. So speaking of that, if you enjoy the podcast, if you enjoy what you see here and everywhere else that I make stuff, consider coming over there and you can join to watch not only those videos, but join our photo of the month club, which is something that I did this week. In fact, I think of all the things that I did, and I don't know if my memories are from me living them or it's from me editing videos about those, but that made its way into a video or two. But yeah, this week definitely was one where I heavily leaned into Lego. And you may have noticed that on Greg's World, where's the line between Brickitect and Greg's World? And as I think about it here, I don't know if there really is a line. I just share what I'm up to and I'm into no matter where I go. And sometimes that's Lego and sometimes a lot of other things. But Clark and I have been having a lot of fun. And this podcast, I think, is going to be heavily Lego focused. And so we're taking the term Missing Pieces, which always was a Lego thing. This initially used to be on my Lego channel, but then I was like, this is more of like a life vlog. Then I moved to Greg's World, and then I put it onto my Lego live streaming channel and changed the name. It's had a whole history here. This is called the Greg's World podcast for a bit. Before that, I was doing Good Morning Brickitectors, Good Morning World. I had all kinds of stuff, but in my heart, I've always been a podcaster and vlogger and a sharer of things, and that's where this story continues, I suppose. But going back to last week, and I guess I'll just give you a couple highlights if you missed the videos, because you may not have seen them. We actually did a mail time video last weekend on Clarkman's channel. I decided, since pretty much all of the mail is for Clarkman, it's all Pokemon cards at this point because people realize he likes Pokemon. He gets Pokemon cards. I'm like, let's just throw this on the Clarkman channel since that's kind of where it belongs. And I feel really good about that. He loves doing it. People seem to enjoy it, and it's been good. So that kind of moved over there. But the most fun of the weekend, and this is where it kind of goes back into Lego and probably where the whole podcast is going to be, at least for a period of time, the most fun that I had this week. And that was doing a lot of Lego last weekend with Clarkman, but most importantly, creating this thing that I had in my mind, inspired by a Clarkman mock. He built this Lego school bus, and we had been getting heavily into Lego trains lately. I've been wanting to do trains for so long, and I was trying to decide what scale of train do I want to do, or do I commit to Lego? And I think committing to Lego is the right decision because, one, we have a huge collection of Lego as it is, and some Lego trains and a lot of track. But I also love the idea that you can make whatever you want. Instead of going to the store when you want a new train and having to buy one, we made our own. And that's what I did with the bus mock that Clarkman had. I turned that into a train, and we had so much fun. Well, I had fun building it, but then we had so much fun just running it, and Clark was doing it, and it fell off the table and exploded multiple times. We put a bunch of minifigs in there, and I was just thinking, this is the most fun that I've had in Lego in so long. The fun in Lego doesn't come from building sets necessarily or buying sets, unless you get a really good deal. That can be fun, which we'll talk more about that here too, because Amazon and Walmart both decided that for some reason, there isn't just Prime Days. There's not just Black Friday. We're just every month or two, we're just going to have like a random, like half a week that's full of deals. And I took advantage of that in Lego. But the fun in Lego comes from, in my opinion, doing something creative, having a lot of fun, not only like myself, but sharing that with Clarkman, and then sharing that with the world and putting smiles on other people's faces. And from the comments from that video, it seems like we did just that. And I just felt like that is my place. In fact, I talked about in a vlog this week as I was going to the grocery store, I was talking about how I really do feel like Lego is my future. And when I look at myself in 10 years time, you know, job interviews, they always ask you like, where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years? I see myself as a Lego guy. And I guess, you know, nothing changed there. Some things never change, as I said in the video, but it's just like, it's definitely my passion, but it's definitely one of those things where Lego, in my opinion, it's not the destination, as we've talked about before. And so, I wish I could quote the person that gave me this quote. They said, Lego isn't the destination, it's the vehicle. The destination is like sharing and like documenting all of this, which is what I really love to do. And that's, you know, that's what this is, you know, sharing and documenting, keeping a video time capsule, whether it's, you know, of a growing collection or a growing son. All of these things are important in my life, and I share all of the things that are important to me. But we had so much fun with that video. And throughout the week, we were still doing a lot of train stuff with the bus. And it just kind of inspired me like, boy, we could trainify, I might patent that phrase, trainify all kinds of stuff and have a great time. I wanted to do that for the longest time. I haven't done this yet, but I want to take one of our RC cars and basically like build a Lego body over top of the frame where all the RC stuff is, and then just go race a Lego RC car. I think that video would go crazy, so don't steal my idea, but I think that would be so much fun, especially if we crashed it and it just exploded like at the skate park. Dude, that would be so much fun. So I'm writing that idea down mentally here. But yeah, I just been having so much fun with Lego. I guess I should share my win of the week with Lego before we talk about more acquisitions. We need to talk about an acquisition that has been sitting in the storage room of doom for nearly 4 years. And I feel like a huge sense of guilt and like just awful about this set because it's something that was sent to us by a fan back in December of 2020, shortly after we moved into this house. And it was a massive Lego Minecraft set, the Minecraft Mountain Cave. And at the time, we were doing mail time pretty much every single weekend. And it's one of those things that just got put in the storage room, like a lot of sets and a lot of things that I own, including other things that people have sent us. But that's been sitting in the storage room in a box and just rotting away for the last 4 years. And as I was cleaning out the front end of the storage room of doom, I came across this box and I was like, this thing needs built. This needs inventoried. It needs accomplished. So this week I decided that that's very much what I was going to do. And I brought that box out. There's 4 gallon size like Ziploc bags inside, and I ended up dumping those out, sorting them by color, and then inventorying all the pieces in that set, adding pieces from my collection into it because some of the bags were opened, and I don't know like who or where. Well, I do have an inkling of where this came from because the return address is on the box, and that's going to become important here in a second as I talk about this. But I don't know if it was all there when it was put in there. And it seems like that's not the case because one of the things I needed was like almost 20 2x4 gray bricks. And I'm like, I don't think they just fell out of the box. And there was a whole bunch of big plates. There's a bunch of stuff missing, but all the important stuff is there. In fact, by the time I went through my entire collection and added what I needed in there, there's only about $5 worth of parts that I don't have that I need to order. So roughly about $10 after shipping is all it's going to take to complete this set. And I guess what makes me feel awful about this isn't just the fact that it sat there for 4 or 5 years. What makes me feel awful is the fact that when I looked at the label on it, they spent $37 shipping this to us with, I'm assuming, the hope that we would build it and enjoy it, put it into Minecraft world. But then I looked up the set just to see how many pieces it was and like the stats on it because I like to share that. It came out in 2017, sold originally for $250, which you would have to say like is a pretty generous gift, right? Well, that set today is worth between like $650 and $900. So I had this, you know, we'll just call it an $800 set sitting in the storage room, never built, never inventory, never done anything with. And it's just like, man, I really let that person down. And what I'm going to do, and I don't know if this is going to work or not, but this is like in my way of making this right, because I don't know if they even still watch the channel. A lot can happen in 4 years, particularly if they were a younger viewer. I've seen it with Clarkman, and maybe if you have kids, you've seen it too. Kids move on from things very quickly. You might be their favorite YouTuber for 2 months and they watch all your videos, and then something else comes along, or their taste change or hobbies change, and they're on to the next thing. I have their return address. I put a piece of Gorilla Tape over. Thankfully, it was already taped, so I can see the address. I'm going to send a thank you note with a Polaroid, or not a Polaroid, but a Fuji Instax picture that you would get if you joined the Photo of the Month Club. Links down below. I want to send that in the mail to them with like a massive, like just a note that says like, thank you so much for sending this. I'm very sorry for how long this took me to actually accomplish and build, but here it is built. And if you want to watch the completion of this, you can watch it on my channel. Do the people even still live in the house that I'm going to be mailing this to? Hard to say, but somebody, maybe I'll get a new subscriber out of it. They're just going to get a random letter and they're like, what is this? Picture of a Lego set? But it would really make my day if that person, maybe, who knows, they could be listening to this, if they knew that we were getting into that and that we appreciated them, because they never got that appreciation when we built it or when we got it. And like, I'm just like, put myself into their shoes. And this is where I like feel guilt about this. Like, I was thinking, like, say it was Clark and I, and we love this channel and they do Lego and they share all this stuff. And I'm like, hey, let's send them the Minecraft Mountain Cave. We built it. We enjoyed it. Let's see their experience with it. And then you get it all together. You spend all that money shipping it. And then they get it. You know, they do a mail time video, which I could probably go back and find the mail time video, actually. Now that I know the date, I'm sure it's like right around that same exact time. How disappointing would it be if they got that and then never did anything with it? Like, that sucks. So this is my chance to make things right. And I'll have like a sense of like relief after this is done. But I just hope that that person sees it. I'm a little worried, like I mentioned this in the video, like someone's going to like comment like, oh, that was me that sent it, just to get attention. So I won't know truly if that person ever actually does see it. But it's all I can do. So that is absolutely my win of the week. Like, trying to make things right, first of all, one, but two, like doing. Because I've been a procrastinator for so long with the phrase, why do today what you can do tomorrow? And you can see where that gets you. It gets you with a storage room that's a giant mess. It gets you with things that you bought and just never got into, never accomplished. And I don't want that anymore for myself. So the world of doing is definitely happening in the world of Lego. And that just makes me happy. And it's going to be fun sharing that progress with people and in that journey, because ultimately, like, that's what I'm here for. It's the journey. It's bringing people along on this thing that hopefully is never ending. We just like, we consistently work towards our goals, which is what No 0 Days is. Like, you can see how all of my content, regardless of what the topic matter is, it ultimately is always the same thing. It's just sharing a journey. This is what this podcast is. That's what my vlogs are. That's what the Lego thing is. It's like different vehicles, same destination. And I love that. I love that. So that's kind of my two cool things that I did in Lego. But I guess the other cool thing, and you know, one set comes out of the storage room, you got to put a few more in, right? So Amazon was doing these deals, Walmart was too, and I ended up getting the Quinjet, which is like an Avengers set for Clark. Man, he's been so into Marvel lately, Iron Man, all of this stuff. He's Wolverine. He has a costume. I think he's actually going to be Iron Man for Halloween this year. Maybe. I don't want to spoil it. We're going Halloween shopping on Monday. He has off, so that'll be a fun thing to do. But I ended up getting this set for him because it was 40% off. It was $100 like giant like airplane type thing is how I'll describe it. A big gray, dark gray airplane. But the beauty of it is it has 5 minifigs with it. And all the minifigs are worth like between like $5 and $7. So if you add that all up, more than half the value is there just in minifigs. And Clark was interested in building the set. And I thought, even if he just builds it and we part it out, you could always use more dark gray in your collection, right? So I got that for $60. Then Walmart was doing this deal where it was this Lego Porsche. I say Porsche for the elitists out there. 911 RSR. It's like white with a little bit of red and black on it. It's not the orange one that's on my shelf right there. It's not quite to that level, but I've been wanting the set for a long time, and I've seen it come up on deals a few times. It's $175 typically, and they had it on sale for $110. So I ended up pulling the trigger on that. And what I've decided to do to kind of justify that is I have a couple other Technic sets that I don't see myself really building. In fact, I have like there's like an orange Corvette. It's like a $50 set. At least it was when I bought it. I think I'm going to sell a few of those off, along with some other stuff in the storage room. Like, there's just some Lego that I'm probably not going to get into. So I feel like I can justify that. I also got the 2024 Advent Calendar City that was on sale with Walmart as well. And they've been shipping like crazy fast, like next day. They're even faster than Amazon, it seems. So Clark and I maybe we're discussing whether we want to do 2 Advent calendars in one day. This is something we've done every single year, dating back to when I first got back into Lego as an adult. Every year we do the City Advent Calendar. But sometimes we do multiple Advent calendars at the same time. Sometimes we get so many that we can do one in November. And I like the idea of running one from like the 6th of November up until December 1st, and then running the next one. So we'll probably do Star Wars as well. It just depends if we want to do them together on the same day or if we want to extend it out for longer. So I'll have to discuss that with Clark, man. But he, like, that was my Lego shopping. But he also went Lego shopping in the storage room of Doom. He ended up wanting to get the Avengers Tower out and putting it on display in his room. So I got a chance to test my system where I've been kind of jettisoning boxes, but not quite because they're still in a box of boxes. But my system of having a 3-ring binder with the manual in there and then my drawer where it's labeled Marvel absolutely worked. We were able to find this stuff like pretty instantly, and then he built it and it was exciting for him to do. And I was like, this is why you have a Lego library. But ultimately, when it comes to Lego collecting, and I think this is kind of like the last thing I want to say about Lego, because you're like, well, Greg, I'm not into Lego. Well, you're here for the journey. And the journey is going to kind of curve around the track a little bit, using some Lego train terminology here, or anything with a track. I mean, race cars, trains. I got nothing else. There's a few goals that I have in Lego at this point. Anything that I buy, one, it needs to be a display piece. It needs to be, that's one, or it can be something that goes into our amusement park, 2, or 3, it's for inventory, like having a collection of parts that are all properly inventoried and sorted properly. That way, when we go to build stuff, particularly mocks, because that's what Clarkman loves doing the most in Lego, they need to be available for him. So I want to have 3 aspects of Lego collecting. There needs to be a proper inventory of parts that are available to build with, nice, big, beautiful sets on display that I can look at and marvel at, sometimes literally, and then the amusement park. There's the 3 things. What I'm not doing is buying sets that get built, looked at, or made video on, and then put back in the storage room of Doom. If there is something that kind of falls into that category that I just can't resist because I want to build it, when I'm done with it, it either gets cycled out into the inventory or I resell it on eBay, because I've talked about that before, where I could build an incredible amount of stuff and then enjoy every process or every part of the process, which would be the buying, the building, the sharing. But when it comes to storing, which is the part that I don't like, that needs to go and get some of my money back to keep recycling it and doing it over and over again. So that's what I think, that's my plan. And I think it could be very fun to share all of that kind of stuff. Like the amusement park thing's really neat. And I've got some plans for things that we're going to add to that. And I've got some big sets that are like here and working on. And then Clarkman's doing his mocks. He's making an Iron Man glove right now. So we've kind of got all 3 cylinders. We're 3 cylinders here. They're all firing. The engine's firing in all 3 cylinders on our Geo Metro. So that's what I've been into. And the win of the week was Lego related, but I think like that covers everything Lego. eBay though, I mentioned about buying things. I've been selling on eBay, as you know, and the sales have been pretty consistent, but now I find myself kind of getting into the world of starting lineup collecting. I've talked about this, I'm sure. I've been making videos sharing my starting lineup collecting journey, which is definitely not something that's popular on eBay or popular with collectors, and also not popular with my audience either. But I'm okay with that sacrifice. Like every time I put one of those videos out, YouTube always gives you like the stats. And if you've ever like made a series of videos, you can see like, okay, this one's like a 1 out of 10, a 5 out of 10. The starting lineup one's always 10 out of 10. People come to our channel for the vlogs. They don't necessarily want to see me opening up action or NBA figures from the 90s in a 30-year-old sealed package. It's not something that people are there for. But as I mentioned before, there is an audience that is there for that, and they're enjoying it, and I am too. This is something that I've never really gotten into before, and it's been fun going on to eBay, and probably a little too fun actually, going on and like seeing what figures are available and what deals I can put together. And I'm finding just incredible prices on these, because it's, as I mentioned before, it's just not something that people want or are collecting. So it's always great to be in something that people are just trying to get rid of, right? So I made a couple purchases this week. I need to kind of tailor it back. There's just like things like I put a bid on and then no one else bids, or I'll put a low ball offer thinking like surely they're going to counter this. They accept it. They're just like, yes, finally. So I've been doing really well with that. And I'm thinking like every Monday, I think I'm going to do a starting lineup video because you have the weekend vlog that's going to go on Patreon on Mondays. And then that means that there's no Greg's World vlog on Monday. So that'll be the day that those go out. In fact, I guess there won't be a video on Sunday either because I've been really up to date. Like Monday's vlog comes out on Tuesday, Tuesday's Wednesday, so forth. So today when I'm recording will go out tomorrow. No video on Sunday. The Monday when I'm like doing Home Alone with Greg, I can take a little time and open up a starting lineup and share that. I don't know if that's something that'll go on forever, but I've been enjoying like getting the characters. I shouldn't say characters because they're real people. Getting the figures that I've wanted from in the NBA from the 90s. I just love it. I just think it's so much fun. I do have a couple eBay stories though to share with you this week, starting with one that starting lineup that I got a crazy price on. I wanted to get a baseball player because I don't have any baseball ones. And I was looking around and I found one. And again, I put this super low ball offer on. It was like $3 with $4 shipping. I'm like, there's no way they can accept that because like they're going to lose money. They accepted it. But the shipping though, she shipped this thing. And this would only be a problem if you were a collector because I open them up and display them. But this is a 30-year-old figure basically. And they shipped it in a bag, like just a purple bag that you'd ship like a shirt in or something, or a pair of pants, like if you've ever ordered things like that online. And I was just thinking like, man, that is crazy that you would ship it like that. I'm certainly not going to give her any like negative feedback for it. I'm not even going to like message her. It's not worth the effort, but like it should be noted, like if you're selling anything online, if you're ever considering it, and I've shown people how to do that on eBay, but I haven't really discussed shipping too much other than showing that like I'm very particular about shipping. Everything gets like bubble wrapped in brown paper, whatever it is. Like I thrive on two things: speed. I always get comments like from feedback, like super fast shipping, very well packaged item was like as described. Like all those things are important to me. Don't ship something that you deem to be, well, not even collectible, but like could be folded or broken or bent in a bag. Just don't do that. Find a box to put it in. But I mean, she was so tight on like the shipping that like it's probably the only way she could even make anything off of it. Like I assume she lost money on it. I kind of feel bad about it. So I'm not going to reach out or anything, but it would be good to know if you're an eBay seller, like don't ship it in a bag. Another eBay seller news, like I'm trying to get this Lego set that's a $140 set. It'd be perfect for our theme park. And I see it going for like consistently like $60 to $80 on eBay, right? Well, actually like $80 to $90. And this guy had it like for 70, but his shipping was like 20. And I said to him, I said, would you be willing to ship this without the box and just, put everything into like take the bags and put it into a box and with the manual and also change it from priority shipping to ground advantage and we could save some money that way? Because if so, I would be happy to buy this from you because the shipping was like $20. So it went from like $70 to $90. And I assumed most of that cost was coming from shipping a giant Lego box and sending it priority. So I sent that message to him and then he gets back to me and he's like, hey, Greg, I took all of the bags out of the box and made a new listing. And I'm like, okay, cool. And so I went to go click on it and buy it. And then I noticed that it was still priority shipping and it was still $15. So I messaged him again and I said, hey, is there any way that you could change that from priority to ground advantage and like actually test the weight and everything? Because I don't think it's going to cost $15. In fact, I did like a little test quote and using like another similar size set as an example for the weight and like the size. And it was like between $7 and $14 going from Ohio to Pennsylvania. So I was thinking like maybe like $10 at most. And he says, well, sorry, I can't switch it to ground advantage because I only have priority boxes. So he's shipping these in like big priority boxes. And I'm just like, and he's like, I understand if you don't want to buy it. And I said, well, if you could just find a box to put this in and ship it ground advantage, I'll buy it from you right away. And that was the last I heard from him. So he lost the sale because he didn't have a box. And that just seems like crazy to me as an eBay seller. Like, it's crazy enough shipping something in a bag that can be folded. Like that's a Amazon maneuver there. Like I've gotten Lego sets that have been like flattened. But another thing, like you don't have a box. Like you haven't bought anything that was like in a box. Like we have so many boxes in our garage. I recycle them all the time. I keep the ones that I need. I recycle a bunch. Like you don't have a box that you could put this in and like to get the shipping down. I know you might be thinking like, Greg, well, like $8. It's like, just pay it. And I was going to, because I felt bad because he opened up the set. Like it was a new set in box and he literally opened it up and did all this stuff, took 2 pictures of it. But like, he didn't answer my question properly. Like I didn't ask him to do all that. I just said, could you ship this without the box? And could you ship it ground advantage? He just took half of that and was like, how about this? And I'm like, well, if it's only going to save me $4 or $5, I guess I'll take the box, right? But geez Louise, speaking of other sellers, like now that I'm buying on eBay, I'm realizing just how ridiculous some of these people are. I bought a starting lineup lot last weekend, put a bid on it, hoping no one else would bid on it, and I won it. And it's like super cheap for all of the stuff that I got. And I was like watching this thing, like waiting for it to ship. And I bought it on Sunday and here it was like Wednesday night. And I messaged the guy and I'm like, hey, do you have a tracking number? Cause it's showing that my item hasn't shipped yet. And he's like, you'll notice that all of my auctions are 4-day shipping. Like not that it takes 4 days to get to you, but it's 4 business days for him to ship something out. And I said, oh, okay, no problem. I am a seller and I ship next business day. So waiting 4 days to ship something seems a little crazy to me, but as long as it gets here, I'm fine with that. But I was just thinking like 4 business days? Like, do you think that's acceptable? I mean, maybe he stacks everything up that he, gets throughout the week and then like takes it all out on a Thursday or whatever. But like, I could not imagine not shipping something in like for 4 days. Like if you buy something from me, it's out the next day. If you buy it early enough in the morning, it's out that day. And that's just like, that's important to me because I think that's what people expect. Like when you're buying from Amazon, you don't expect them to wait a week. I mean, unless you don't have Prime, I guess, or whatever, but like stuff comes quickly. Even with Walmart, I don't have anything with them. And like my stuff's here the next day, like waiting 4 days to ship. And then obviously the shipping takes time too, is nuts. I had this similar thing happen to me. Maybe this is more common than I thought. When I bought the Mega Constructs Xbox 360 that we were going to use for our trip to Outer Banks, and thankfully I got that because it rained pretty much the whole time, so Clark and I built that whole set. I ordered it like 2 weeks ahead of time, and the guy waited at least a week to send it. And I started getting really worried because I was like, this isn't going to come in time for our trip. But thankfully it did right before we left, and I was able to take it. But I thought, holy smokes, like if somebody buys something from you, get that darn thing in the mail. Like that's your end of the bargain. I gave you money. Your end of the bargain is to get that thing shaped up, shipped out. And I guess that's not that big of a deal. I mean, maybe I should start living that life. It might be nice to only go to the post office if I need to, like every Monday or like say every Tuesday and Friday, have 2 days a week where I send stuff out. But I don't know. I just think that's bad customer service and I just can't get behind that. So those are my eBay stories of the week. The guy that lost a sale because of a box, the person that shipped something not in a box, but in a bag. I should have been like, hey, do you have a bag sitting around? Put it in a Walmart bag, tie a knot on the top of it, throw a label on the side of it. And then you have the guy that just didn't ship anything yet. In fact, I should go on and check and see if he shipped it out yesterday. He's like, I'll print the label tomorrow. I don't know if he ever did, but I'm confident it'll be here and it's okay because I already have 2 other starting lineup things that I need to share. So we got a few weeks lined up of Monday videos of Greg's starting lineup journey, but I'm having fun with it. I don't know what it is about him that I like these old Kenner figures that aren't super detailed, but like are like a reminder of 90s NBA basketball, a time that I really enjoyed, not only with watching it, but playing video games of it in a time that like life was so much simpler. It takes me back to the same place that Lego does. And it's fun getting into a new collection, right? Like the 2 new things I started collecting recently within the last few months have been Atari games, since I just got an Atari, and starting lineup figures. And it's been fun because usually my collecting has just primarily been Lego stuff. So I'm kind of branching out a little bit. And I have them up on my shelf here and I can look up and look at them and it's great. So that was all of my eBay stuff, a lot of sports related things there. And as was Watch-A-Tect. This week I started getting into sports documentaries. I love watching them. I realized just how engaging they are, especially when you don't know the outcomes, or in some cases you do. The first thing that I watched was the documentary. I think it was like almost like a 30 for 30, but it was on Netflix called Fab Five. and it's about the Michigan Wolverine team. It's a basketball team from, I think it's like the late 80s, early 90s. It was Chris Webber, Jalen Rose, and Juwan Howard, and two other guys that I don't know if they really panned out in the NBA. But essentially what this was almost an unheard of thing where five freshmen, like extremely like gifted freshmen in basketball, came to Michigan to play, and these guys were basically like an NBA team already, playing against like other colleges. And they talked about like the pressures that they faced, and also like what it was like for the other teammates that, like, say you were like a junior or senior and you're about ready to take on like the world as a Michigan Wolverine with your other teammates, and you're all seniors and it's your time. And then all of a sudden, all these little 18-year-old punks come in, but they're all like way better than you. Like, you may have heard of Chris Webber, probably of all of them. He's probably had the biggest career, I would say. But like to have these guys come in and like almost like they started them almost right away. Like they had to earn it, but like they started them, and it was like their story of playing for a championship and some things that happened during that. I don't want to spoil it because you may want to watch it. But like things really didn't pan out the way that they were supposed to. And then there was some issues that came to light afterwards, after they had kind of like graduated or left. Like, for example, you could look this up, but Chris Webber, he went to the NBA after 2 years. But this team was supposed to like win every championship, for 2, 3, 4 years, and it just didn't work out. So that was a great story. But an even better story maybe is I finished a series that I started years ago. I only watched a few episodes of it, but I finished it, and it took an incredible amount of time, which is pretty much the only thing I watched this week. And that was a documentary on Netflix called The Last Dance, which is the story of Michael Jordan. Again, I love 90s basketball, but this is the story of Michael Jordan's career, essentially, or the Chicago Bulls indirectly, and the championship runs that they had throughout the 90s, ending with 1998, when basically Jerry Krause, who was the manager of the Bulls, said like Phil Jackson, who's the coach, is done. And as a result, like the team was going to be like not like split up, but like it was almost going to be like a rebuilding situation. And Michael Jordan, who was already at the end of his career, is like, I'm not coming back. And then a lot of the other guys left too, ultimately. But the way that this documentary is done is so well done, because it shows a lot of like present day, which is 1998, when they're going through this last season. Because obviously you got a lot of attention on that team. They had been coming off of a championship, 2 championships already. And then before Michael Jordan had left in like 1994 to play baseball, they had 3 championships before that. So they had like split three-peats. And this is them going for their second three-peat. And like the whole story of the season. But the way that it was done, and what I loved about this was you'd be talking about like the current time, and then you would go back to like 1984, when Michael Jordan's just coming into the league or playing for North Carolina. And then it goes throughout all the years and all the things that happened. And I just thought it was incredible, not only how they were able to get all the players to kind of sit down for like interviews in this, but all these other people as well. Like even Barack Obama sat down for an interview, in all these different people with all their opinions and thoughts on all this stuff. And I was just thinking about the making of this documentary, and to have to sit these people down and like know that you want them to talk about certain things and different segments, and then somehow put that in there, and the editing on that would just be incredible. From like when you make videos, you start thinking about these things. But what I learned from this series, which mainly focused on Michael Jordan, was like how in my mind Michael was this larger than life figure who was like squeaky clean, like the Space Jam Michael Jordan, the guy that advertised things, who played great basketball. But in reality, Michael Jordan is a giant jerk. Not because, I mean, he might be a jerk in general, but it's because he's so wildly competitive. Like everything in his life is his drive to win, not only in basketball, but everything. And he got heavily into gambling because of that. And when he's down, he always like had to come back and win. And like he drove other people. Like you would view him as a tyrant. I'm sure they use that word quite a bit in the documentary, but like he was a tyrant, but it was because he just demanded such excellence of himself, and he wanted that same excellence from his teammates. And the reason that they were probably so successful was because of just how driven he was. There were probably other basketball players throughout the years, maybe people that never even made it to the NBA, that had the talent that Michael Jordan had, but no one had that drive. And I think the only other person that you could really compare is that Mamba mentality that Kobe Bryant had, where he was just so like ferociously competitive, and winning was the only thing that mattered in his life in anything. that drive just like pushed other people to greatness too. And when you can do that with an entire team of people, like people lived in fear of Michael Jordan, because if you didn't perform at the level that he expected of you, or if you like, there's a story of him and Steve Kerr where him and Steve kind of got into this little bit of a fight. Steve's like this short white guy. He now coaches the Golden State Warriors. And they got into a little bit of a fight, and Michael Jordan and him like started like physically fighting. Like Jordan punched him in the face. But then obviously he felt bad afterwards, but that gave him so much respect for Steve because he was unwilling to back down. And that's what Jordan demanded. So it's just kind of crazy to see this guy that like, and he's cussing throughout the whole thing and stuff. And like, just to see how he acts is so much different than the public persona of him, like advertising things or being in like a Looney Tunes movie. It was just crazy to see the other side of it, but it made me really like feel like I would not want to hang out with Michael Jordan. He just does not seem like a likable person. And if like you were to hang out with him, he's just not a good man. It seems, but you can't deny that he was an incredible basketball player, but like not a friendly person at all. But what's going to be remembered later on though, how friendly you were or how many championships you won, I guess is probably where he stands on it. And I don't think he has any regrets. So that was it's called The Last Dance. It's the story of Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls' runs for championships, heavily focused on their final year together. And like at the end of it, outside of thinking Michael Jordan's a jerk, I just couldn't help but think like what could have been had they just kept the team intact. Like I don't know if it was like the management didn't like Phil Jackson, if they thought he was too popular, if he was making too much money, whatever it was. But the funny thing is about the Bulls is that they have not been back to that level since 1998. They have not regained what they had at the time. And they should have just kept that running. Because in my opinion, like Michael Jordan ultimately ended up coming back to play for the Washington Wizards in the early 2000s. And he was still like, I watched a YouTube video that talked about his stats from that team, which was not very good. And he was still like an NBA caliber player. What would have happened if Michael would have just kept playing there in 1999, 2000, 2001, 2002? Like he could have maybe had several more championships. It's like the same thing like when you think about bands breaking up and it's like what music could have happened. I used to think about that when Tupac got killed and I was like, man, the world missed out on all of this music and acting and all these things. It's just like, it's just a loss, But then also like it is great to go out on top, I suppose. Like Michael Jordan's famous last shot in 1998 when he jumps up over Brian Russell and, does this jump shot that goes in and wins the game essentially. Like that is monumental. And, to stick around maybe and to flounder for several years after that, possibly, or maybe win again. Who knows? I mean, if you have Michael Jordan in your team, nothing's out of the question. Who knows what comes of that and where it goes? But all you do know is that because of management and decisions they make to like just end it. Why would you do that? There's so much money to be made. Why would you do that? And that's like my biggest question. Like, why would you want the money faucet to stop? And Michael Jordan, like to be the greatest player in the world, debatably ever, definitely at that time. Can you imagine walking away at that time? Like you still have that skill to be the number one player on any team in the NBA and you retire. And same thing he did when he played baseball too. He was just like it from what they said in the documentary. And I know I'm going on this about forever, but it really like was interesting to me. There was just so much pressure on him. And I guess after you win 3 championships in a row, and you got all these eyes on you and stuff was coming out about his gambling and his dad was actually murdered. Not because of his gambling, just indirectly. Like maybe you do need to step away from that. They were showing like how he was kind of holed up in his hotel room and couldn't go anywhere or do anything because everybody wanted a piece of him everywhere he went. And I just think that'd be a miserable life, I guess. So yeah, that's life in the public's eye and being one of the most famous people on the planet. I guess that's the trade-off, but yeah, I can see why maybe you would step away, but then you just think about like what could have been. And that's where that documentary left me. And that's why I enjoyed it so much. So that was pretty much my watch effect, getting back into watching sports. I'm watching, I think my next one's going to be called Barry. It's a story of Barry Sanders walking away from football, kind of similarly at the top of his game and just leaves it, which, people do sometimes, like if you I watched a Lego video today about this guy that was kind of like hanging it up too, even though he's having success and everything. He just lost the passion. And if you lose the passion for something, there's nothing that anyone can say or do. Because like my immediate thing when I was watching this video was to like comment to the guy like, hey, this is the first video I've ever seen of you, but I really I like you as a person. You seem like a really great guy. Please keep going. Like just tell him to push on. But as soon as he said he lost his passion for it, I was like, there's nothing you can do about that. You can't make someone have passion about things. I've tried getting like I share my passion for making YouTube videos with people, and no matter how I try or what I say, like to get people like to do this, people they just don't want to do this. They don't have what it takes to do this, whether it's the passion or the time or the energy or the dedication. You got to have all those things to make it. And most people don't. Just like Michael Jordan's situation, not comparing being a YouTuber to that, but it's not just talent that gets you somewhere. Lots of guys have talent, but do you have that instinct, that killer instinct, the drive, the competitive nature, like the discipline, the work ethic? Do you have those things? And if you do, you can do great things. And if you don't, you're not. But that's my thoughts on everything this week. I thought I wouldn't really have much to say, but half the episode's about Lego, half's about 90s basketball. That's a win in my book. The things I'm up to and into, checked off. Let's get into listener feedback, though. You guys had some things to say, starting with Amy, who I think is a Patreon detector. She says, hello, Greg. I'm not disappointed that your TikTok trial was short-lived. I'll say there was a couple messages about like, hey, thank God you're not on TikTok anymore. I am still, I need to like still do my 100 days thing there. I'm just putting out little highlights or whatever, just like the best little tidbits of the video and putting it out there. She says, I'm not a TikTok user, but I would have followed you there if I had to. Keep doing what you're doing. It's what we want. My son and I watch Greg's World every night before bed. It never gets old and it's never boring. Stop worrying so much, my friend. Well, thank you. Yeah, sometimes it's very easy to get inside your head and start wondering about things. In fact, like I talk about that sometimes in my videos and I'm like, no, I'm just going to cut this out. That's the beauty of making videos, is that you can edit all the stuff out that you don't want. I'll take an hour of video and make a 12-minute video out of it. Right. So it's just kind of like, it's what I really want to share. But it's so hard to, like, when you're doing something as a hobby, as a business, something that consumes all your days and all your times, it's hard not to get inside your head and like ponder it and question it, try to decide if you're on the right path. Like most people, when they go to their job, you have a boss who has a boss who has a boss, or somebody above you that like is directing you. You go into your job, you know exactly what you need to do that day and what their goals for you are, and you do it and you go home, and ideally you leave everything else there. When you do something like this, it's like there's no direction. Everything that I do is a decision that I need to make. If I zig when I should have zagged, is that a mistake? Should I try zagging? Maybe zagging would be fun. No, zagging's not for me. I'll stick to zigging. Like that's the life that I'm in. And I think like what I've learned through like last week, and what last week's episode was about, is how I should just continue doing what I love to do, which is to share this journey. And that's what this, that's what, like, it always comes back to that. Don't change anything. Just do what you do, and the people will find you. And that's my final thing I'm going to say about that. I'm just going to do that. Maybe be a little less hard on myself in terms of like creating these challenges where it's like every day you got to do this thing, but more like, what do I want to share today, and then share that. So thank you for the encouragement. I appreciate your dedication to go to the enemy platform just to watch my content, but yeah, it's not necessary. But I do appreciate you commenting. I'm glad you and your son watch the videos before bed. Hopefully there's something in there that you're getting some value out of. Next one comes from Jim Rolfe. Repeat offender, even though he says he's a long-time listener, first-time commenter. He says, these talks are important to me. I listen to them as I drive or I'm doing work. They keep me motivated and interested. Keep up the good work. Long-time listener, first-time commenter. Yeah. That's those comments, like that type of mentality right there is the reason I keep doing this podcast. Like when I went into this today and I started this episode by saying like, it's a little challenging for me right now, like finding something within me to share that hasn't already been shared. I do have to realize that some people maybe only listen to the podcast, a small percentage, but like this gets you updated throughout the week of all the stuff that you would have had to spend like an hour watching that, or like this is just a more convenient medium for you. So I missed a lot of stuff this week that I didn't cover. So if you do want the extra pieces, this is just the missing pieces. You can watch the videos and see those there. But it's just a little more insight, I suppose, and something that can't happen in a video, regular video. Next one comes from Tracy. He says, Schleich figures are so high quality. I mentioned these dinosaurs that I got. My kids have loved collecting the animal ones for a long time. They're really the best out there. I'm glad you got to get them to a subscriber. Yeah, I still have a few of them left. They mentioned that they may be buying those ones as well, and I hope they do, because there hasn't been much interest outside of the one subscriber that bought my lot and a bunch of the other ones. But yeah, they're very heavy. Like the Schleich dinosaurs, like they're heavy plastic. I mean, initially I was disappointed they weren't Jurassic World because I knew those would sell. But when I found out that these are coveted, I was like, okay, cool. But yeah, they're in the store if anybody needs a dinosaur, or like there's a couple that are like winged creatures too, which is kind of neat, like almost like dragons. Next one comes from Lego Jasper. It says, I had the same problem with trains, so I built a second layer underneath my table, like a metro layout, and around the back there's a ramp where they can drive up and lap the top layer. That sounds epic. I haven't even considered about making my stuff like multiple layers. I do want to I'm thinking about making mine a monorail though. I think I probably talked about this, where it doesn't interfere with the stuff that's down below. So like right now our track is going around our table and consuming a lot of the corner space. If I put it up on a monorail up in the air, you could build buildings underneath that or have displays and things under it with the monorail going around the top, and would still very much fit what you would expect in like a Disney World scenario or any other place that has a transportation system like that. But I love the idea of doing an underneath one. I think Jang Bricks had something like that too. I remember there was like volcanoes and caves and all kinds of things down there. That's where the mountain cave could go, underneath the table. And it's kind of like unused space, although I do have storage under there right now. I am getting a bigger table too. Maybe this weekend, although we have some big plans coming, which I won't reveal here. Maybe next weekend. Next one comes from Sam. He says, what's up, Greg? How you doing, buddy? I'd say pretty good. He says, I'm definitely not surprised the Greg's World fan base helped out your TikTok statistics a bit. I'm sure that if people actually had an attention span, they'd be very intrigued by the variety of your content as of late. It's just somehow getting past, like, you picture someone flipping through channels on a TV. They don't even stick around something long enough to even know what it is. That's TikTok in a nutshell. Like, I don't know how you get people there. But I think shorter content is the way to go, and that's, again, not me. I love that you view content creation as one big experiment rather than something that is a free ride like some other content creators do, if you know what I'm saying. I shouldn't be talking about that, I suppose, since I'm obviously not one, but still, I appreciate your transparency. Well, I appreciate you appreciating it. On a different note, I absolutely love the fact that you converted a train into a bus on that Lego track. I'm not even a Lego person, and I enjoyed it. I had a few people commenting that how much they laughed at that video, and that's what I'm here for. He goes on to say, life has been great for me as of late. My oldest niece got married last weekend to the love of her life. I can't believe I was able to keep myself together during the ceremony. My sister and her family were in town for that reason, and it was a ton of fun being able to host them. Thank you for making another great podcast. And oh, by the way, don't worry about the podcast being short. I'm just happy to hear about your week. So, speaking of weeks, hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and see you next time. So Sam always leaves a detailed comment, as does Ray. Ray likes to leave a comment detailing each of the topics, and I appreciate that. He left me a really cool comment. Ray, I know you're listening. He left me this comment about on the starting lineup video of all things, where he is a Reggie Miller fan throughout history. I actually got Reggie Miller's figure this week, and he was talking about his history of being able to watch Reggie Miller with season tickets and seeing all of the great 90s matchups there, sometimes being on maybe the wrong end of it, but no offense. Yeah, that'd be so cool. I wish I could go back to that. I was just too young at the time. Next one and last comment. Very, very limited comments last week. Last week's episode, of the 1 out of 10, remember I said like YouTube tells you like how this video performed? Last week's was a 10 out of 10. Not in terms of content maybe, but like least popular thing that anyone wanted to see. And I think it's because it just had a positive title. It was titled like In the Groove or something like that. Whereas if you title something like I'm moving away from YouTube, that's something that people want to like find out about. If you're just like, I'm having a fantastic day, people are like, oh, I don't care. I want some drama in my life. But I find that when you do drama titles, you get like the wrong type of people. So I just want people that are already here. I don't want new people. So if you're new, get out of here. Just kidding. Dusty says, first, I appreciate your character and authenticity and enjoy whatever you do. What I'm really loving is the starting lineup. So we found the one person. He says, my dad and I have collected them since the 80s. We have so many. I think the reason that there's no market for them is because there are so many around, and there are some rare ones that are worth some money, like the Dream Team one and the Jordan versus Isaiah Thomas one. I saw that one on eBay. It's very expensive. Jordan ones are pretty much the only ones that people really pay good money for. But if you stay tuned to Greg's starting lineup collection journey, you'll see some surprise stuff coming up in the next few weeks that I was able to score. He says, we also collect Beanie Babies that are, most part of them are worthless as well. But you know, what is priceless is the memories you create. I agree. That is such a great phrase. If you have Netflix, you should watch the show King of Collectibles. I need something new to watch. It's the story of Ken Golden and how they collect sports cards and comic books, and they bring millions of dollars and they auction them. I can't stop watching it, and I think you'll love it. Keep up the great work, and I love you being you. Thank you so much, and thanks for the rec. I could always use something new to watch. And the Dream Team recommendation too. I'd like to get that one because it's got Larry Bird in there and it's got Magic Johnson. They're all in their USA uniforms, but I've seen it for like $30, which in the world of starting lineups is very expensive. Very expensive, says Mr. Dink. But yeah, I'm just having fun doing what I love to do, sharing it with the world, and other people seem to enjoy that as well. And that's the secret. There's no thinking about it. There's no doing anything other than that. Speaking of doing anything other than that, that's the end of this podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed tuning in and hanging out with me as I talked about what I was into and up to this week. A little, little long on the Lego and basketball stuff, documentary wise, but I don't know. It's just it's where I'm at right now, and it was fun talking about it with you. And we still turn this into something, even though I've put everything out there that I could possibly put out. So on that, I hope you have a glorious rest of your week, and as always, we'll find you in the next Missing Pieces.